So I recently turned 28, which means that I've been journaling for about 8 years now. And I've filled about 8 journals. But reading through them, there are a few key lessons that I wish I had known earlier. I would have saved myself a lot of time and seen results in everything much faster. So in this video, I thought I would share 8 life lessons after 8 years of journaling. So the first lesson is you're the average of the content that you consume. You've probably heard before the quote, you're the average of the 5 people that you associate with the most. But from my personal experience and from journaling, I can see that your thoughts are really just a function of your inputs. And the inputs are basically things that you hear, things that you see, and the food that you eat. And once I understood this, it becomes a lot easier for me to influence myself in positive ways. Like earlier on when I first started journaling, the only times I would journal is when I had something bad happen or something I wanted to vent about. And so a lot of my early journal entries were pretty negative. And that's actually a very common journaling mistake, because when you just journal about negative things and you only focus on the negative, then your thoughts are going to be a function of that. You're going to be thinking about negative things. You're going to just be in this negative state of mind. But instead, if you started journaling about positive things that happened to you, things that you're grateful for, then this is the kind of state of mind that you'll be in. So the lesson here with you being the average of the content that you consume, for me, was to really focus and be more intentional about what it is that I was putting into my ears, into my mouth, and in front of my eyes. This is really what led to me exploring the habits of being more intentional with my digital usage with social media, of limiting my screen time significantly and making sure that I only expose myself to the things I want to. And when I journal about the things I want to focus on and things I want to cultivate more of. The second lesson is most people settle down at 20. When I was in college and in my early 20s, whenever I would talk to my friends, there would always be this conversation of not wanting to settle down until we're in our 30s or in our mid 30s. But what I realized seeing people around me grow up, and even the path I was going down when I graduated college, is that most people don't settle down at 30 or 35. Most people settle down at 20. And what I mean by that is that by the time you graduate college, most people have this path laid out for them that is very clear and very easy to follow. And most people end up just following that. In your early 20s, it's so easy to feel like you have so much time left. So it's easy to not prioritize the things you really want to do and to do things that you don't really want to. I would say that if there's something that you want to do today, the best time to do it is literally right now. It's not in a few months or when the time is better. The best time to start is right now, when you actually have the motivation and the energy to do it. One thing I learned from studying different entrepreneurs is that they pretty much never settle down. Like, they are never afraid to reinvent themselves at any age. Like, you see this with people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he had basically 3-4 different careers even in his late 60s. And I feel like that's one of the best ways to live life to the fullest. If the path that you're on is exactly what you want to do, then this probably doesn't apply to you. But if you are doing something that you don't want to do and you feel like you have more potential, the best you can do is to not settle down and to really give your goals a shot. I've met so many people that throughout their entire 20s have talked about the thing that they wanted to do but have never had time for. And what you realize is that with every passing day and every passing year, whatever it is that you want to do only becomes harder when you don't do it. You have more responsibilities, your cost of living is higher, and you're also just not as naive to pursue a thing. If you've ever wanted to start a business, learn language, or move abroad, you should just do it. The third lesson is to operate in extremes. Whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, like whether that's a hobby, a business, or your career, you're gonna get the best results by going all in into one thing. There's a book I read called Essentialism, and in it, there's a really powerful illustration that I think about a lot. Your energy and your focus is a finite resource. And so if you try to diversify it into many different hobbies, you're going to have very subpar results in every single thing, versus if you focus all of your energy on one specific thing. If there's something you're trying to pursue, you're going to get the best results going all in into that one thing. And a lot of times, it's not even like you'll get much better results by going all in. It's that you won't get any results at all if you don't go all in. For me personally, I definitely felt this when I was building on my YouTube channel. When I was just treating it like a side hobby and a side hustle, I never really saw any major results. It wasn't until I went all in, I quit my job, spending all my free time learning how to make better videos, that I actually saw some progress, a little bit of progress in my channel. I had the same approach when I learned Japanese a few years ago. For about a year straight, it was my primary focus. Almost every single waking hour, I was immersed in Japanese. I was trying to figure out how to get better at Japanese and learning more about the language. It was because of doing that I was able to pass the highest level fluency exam in a year, which some people don't pass even after living the country for multiple decades. The most meaningful results for anything that you care about is only going to be available when you operate in the extremes. I found that this is true for hobbies, career, and even investing. And I'm not saying that you should neglect your health or not hang out with family and friends just so you can focus on this one thing. But what I mean is that it is much better to just focus on one thing at a time versus trying to do everything, which is just going to give you bad results. The fourth lesson is to increase your surface area of luck. Going back and reading my journals, it's really crazy to see how sometimes a completely serendipitous or lucky event can lead to something really meaningful later on. Before I started this channel, I had another channel where I talked about Japanese language learning. And if I hadn't started that channel, I probably wouldn't be here today. And the only reason I started that channel was because during COVID, I randomly hit up a friend and we just randomly started talking and decided to start a podcast. If that completely random and lucky event never happened, then I wouldn't be able to be where I am today. And I would probably still be working in a corporate job, just completely hating everything that I do. So one principle that has been a really powerful heuristic for me is to increase the surface area of luck. The more you put yourself out there, the more people you talk to, and the more times you try, the luckier you'll be. You're essentially increasing your surface area of luck because there's more vectors for things to happen to you. But when you just stay in your room and you don't talk to anybody, maybe you just go to work and you go home and you work on things by yourself, you're not really in a position for anything to happen for you. So this is really kind of a reminder to myself to really go to bat more often, try more times, fail more often, and that will over time compound into me being more lucky. The fifth lesson is how you live a day is how you live your life. Your life is essentially a summation of your individual days. And so if your individual days are a lot of suffering, of doing things that you hate, like going to a job you don't like, or suffering just to achieve a goal, then your life is going to be 99% suffering and maybe 1% of achieving a goal that you wanted. So what I realized is that it's really important to enjoy the process in everything that you do. And if there's something that I'm working towards and I'm suffering on the process to working towards it, then it's probably worth reevaluating why it is I'm doing that thing and if it's worth continuing. When I was working corporate, I wrote down that I would rather be making 10 times less doing something that I actually enjoyed than doing what I hated and making 10 times more. The things that you do today, the habits that you do, the people that you interact with, and what you work on, those all compound into your entire life. That's really the lesson that made me quit my really comfortable corporate job, because time is the currency of life and not money. The sixth lesson is that documenting your life is one of the most fulfilling things that you can do. One of my favorite things to do every year on my birthday is to go through my old journals and actually read through the different entries. The way that I've documented my life in my 20s is basically by journaling. And it's really fulfilling every year to go back and read my old entries and see how far I've come. Steve Jobs once said, "You can only connect the dots when you look backwards." That is something I can really relate to when I go through my old journal entries. I can see how really small decisions have led to really big outcomes, but I can also just go back and relive certain days that were really fun or certain memories that I thought I had forgot already. That's why I talk about journaling so much on this channel. I think it's one of the highest ROI habits you can do to make sure that you're living with your values and you're kind of just creating this body of work that you can go back on or you can pass down and other people can see this proof of life that you've created. But even besides journaling, I think documenting your life in any other way is also really fulfilling. I think it's really fulfilling to go back and look at pictures of different fun times that I've had with friends or family. So I would recommend taking more pictures and writing about it more often. It's almost getting dark, so hopefully I can finish this before it's completely pitch black. But the seventh lesson is if you want to have an interesting life, then you have to do interesting things. This sounds pretty obvious when you just say it, but I think a lot of us, at least I did in my early 20s, I wanted to have an interesting life, but I wasn't really doing anything interesting except working in my corporate job that had a big brand name to it. If you think your life is boring, then it is because you're doing boring things. And one thing I realized is that you can really just do things. Like if you're working in a job that's boring and it's soul sucking and you want to quit, then you should just quit it and go live an interesting life. Sometimes your life can be a lot more interesting working in a ramen store or a record store, making a quarter of what you can, than it is to be working in corporate America. You really only have one life to live, so you might as well spend that life doing things that you personally find to be interesting. There's a Rick and Morty episode that I think about a lot when it comes to this, but there's this one episode where they have this video game where they can enter this guy's life and play out his entire life. And of course, the first time that someone plays it, they play really safe and live this really boring and risk-less life. But the more times they play it, the more they're willing to take risk and the more interesting this guy's life becomes. That's kind of how I like to see life as well. Like, I imagine that it's a video game and I'm trying to get high score by doing interesting things and not wasting any days. The 8th lesson is don't forget the whole point of life. There's a book I would recommend called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it's basically a book about this caretaker who works with a lot of people who are close to death. And she writes down the top 5 regrets that most of them have. As for what those 5 regrets are, I'll leave you to actually read that book. But what I took away from that book and from journaling myself is that the whole point is basically to spend more time with people that you love, doing things that you love. And that can really manifest in any way. Like, it could be going to work with coworkers that you like working with, or it could be spending more time with family and friends. In my opinion, almost anything is more fun and better when I do it with people that I enjoy. Like playing music, working out, playing video games, or even starting a business. It's more fun when you actually do it with people you like to be around. If you think about it, if you have all the wealth, fame, and status in the world, but you don't have anyone around you that you love, you're not going to be fulfilled. I'll see you in the next video. Let's get it.